And to discuss the topic, first let me introduce in our studio here the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Mamman, a regular on Good Morning Nigeria. SAN. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you, and congratulations.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. We're also being joined by Professor Ashim Musa Me Samari, former Dean, Faculty of Education, University of Abuja. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, madam.
Also part of today's conversation, we would like to welcome Professor Josiah Olusegun Ajiboye. He is the Registrar and Chief Executive of the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. Prof, we're glad to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here, and Good Morning Nigerians.
And more particularly, we would like to congratulate our three guests and all teachers, wherever they may be, because today is World Teachers Day. And at the end of this program, the guests, of course, will be out there at the Eagle Square to mark this year's World Teachers Day. 5th of October each year. In the past, we've had Professor Ajiboye as our guest speaking to issues around teaching. But let's once again especially welcome the Honorable Minister of Education, Professor Mamman, learned senior advocate of Nigeria, former Director General of the Nigerian Law School, a former Vice Chancellor of Base University, also here in Abuja. Professor Tahir Mamman, you've taken over now for some weeks. What have you found on your desk?
Well, I found a lot, actually. A lot of good policies on the ground in the Education Ministry, and highly spirited heads of agencies who man the implementation arm of the ministry. And however, what we need to do is to get all those policies, deliver them on ground in line with the renewed hope agenda of the federal government, and then the imperatives of the times, where education actually is so central to the development of Nigeria that if we get it right there, then a lot of the things we are grappling with at the moment, will just be a thing of the past, because there's no nation that ever develops without getting its education right. So this is what we found, and then on our part, we are rejigging the policies, and then the further articulating the deliverables, what we are supposed to deliver as a ministry, and then as a minister of the federal government of Nigeria. The president came in with his with a commitment to Nigerian on various aspects, and education is very high up on the priority list. And so that's what we are working on.
So what do you consider the most pressing issue in your ministry right now? The most pressing? You've outlined some that you've mentioned now. Which is the most pressing issue on your table right now?
Well, the most pressing items are really about three, essentially. One, what we call out of school children in the country. We have millions and millions and millions of Nigerians who they are not in education, they are not in employment, and they are not in training of any sort. And for the government and for the country, it's a very big time bomb. It has been there for years, building up, because as I've always said, each time the examination bodies release their results, JAM, NECO, WEC, and all those, they give us a percentage of those who have passed their examinations, usually within the range of maximum 20%, and then who now become eligible for admission to tertiary institutions. Now you flip the table, flip the data. That 80%, where are they? Where are they? And these are, students in their millions. They are people who are living with us in our communities. So they have not gone further. A lot of them don't have jobs to do. And so they have been building up. That's just the problem. So we are talking about several official data we are using at the moment is 10.5. But in truth, we know that they are really much more than that. So it is the decision of the government, for our president, that we cannot allow this set of Nigerians, we can't just allow them to hang around the country and even be security threats, very vulnerable young people and young girls. So that's what is top on the agenda of the ministry now, to provide them with some training, with some skills, and then even further opportunity for them to go back to school, those who want to continue for further studies. But the most important thing is for them to be able to acquire or given the opportunity to acquire some skills, so that they can form part of the productive part of the society. Those trainings may range from 1 month to 6 months, but the important thing is that give them some skills. And we have a number of agencies in the ministry, I think about 5 or so, and the latest of which was actually established in the last days of the last government, the Commission on Almajiris and Out of School. There's an executive secretary appointed by the government, so we are putting in place the structure for its immediate takeoff. And we have, of course, as I said, about 4 or 5 other agencies. So we intend to mobilize all these agencies so that they can focus on this problem immediately as a matter of priority. That's one. The second part of what we intend to do is to look at the infrastructure in institutions, from secondary schools, which of course a lot of states are supposed to, provide for. But, education is too important, and it is on the concurrent list. So the federal government has been supporting through UBEC and through some other agencies. But we want to look at the mode of really training and education, learning and teaching at that level. Because by and large, the focus has been mainly on literacy and numeracy. And we feel that's only 2 of 3 tripods on which learning and training at that stage should be. The other one is critical thinking capability competencies, nurturing inquiry-based learning amongst, right from that level. It's not just a matter for the university. The foundation has to be laid from that level, so that our kids can be our future, such as future innovators, and contribute to inventions, generally speaking. And for that, we intend to develop a curriculum that is inquiry-based, that incorporates what is called STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. They are incorporated in it. And then with teachers who be quite involving, in terms of interactive in the way they teach. Even at that level, well, people think it's just the tertiary level. It is not. And mode of learning for the young stars at that stage is more about interactive, actually, and more about doing, and instead of the hardcore teaching, which they are subjected to, people who are subjected at that stage. So that's part of it. And of course, incorporated in that is teacher development, training and retraining, getting the right caliber of people to join the profession. Because for some time now, we seem to see that level of, as a training, as a ground for dumping people who have really no business in teaching at all. So we want to bring back those days when those who come into the teaching profession at that stage are people who are interested and who have made certain benchmarks, of competencies. Those days, it's usually the best brains who get recruited into teaching profession. I remember those who taught us in our primary school were our headmasters, and they were the really people who are really grounded in our schools. So these are things that we want to reinvigorate at that level, because if you don't get the foundation right, no matter what you do at the tertiary level, you just be papering over something that is very difficult to paper over. And so we want to focus on the foundation level of our education, and then the polytechnic, science-based institutions, vocational institutions set up to provide vocational manpower, certain level of manpower for the country. For some time, they've taken a back seat, and that's part of what has contributed to some of the problems we are having. Polytechnics being seen as a kind of second-tier tertiary institution. Whereas at this level of our development, we need their products more than any other category, because they are the ones who provide various sets of skills for students who will now go out and be on their own, not necessarily employees in the public sector, as we seem concerned about. So we are going to focus on ensuring that polytechnics are well equipped, and they have sufficient teachers, because also there, because of that problem, we have information about paucity of teachers who have all those skills at that level. And then to facilitate the development of the skilled workforce that we talked about, the federal government had set up science and technology schools across the country. I think in every state of the country there's a science and technical colleges. A lot of them are not well equipped, so we are developing template of what they will need so that they are properly equipped and provide the kind of training which they are supposed to provide at that level before moving up to tertiary. And then at the tertiary level, the universities have been doing a lot in terms of their curriculum and staff development, but the massification of the university system too has brought on board its own problem in terms of sufficiency of staff, and then in terms of the content of the degrees, which people graduate with. There's a lot of hue and cry in the country generally, especially from industries and employers, about the quality of graduates. I know as a fact that the Universities Commission has been doing a lot. It's only of recent that it commissioned a new curriculum structure for the university called Mismatch, and to be implemented from this academic session, September, October. The whole idea is there's a benchmark standard for everybody, which is for now about 70% provided, while the universities will be free to add on or improve, innovate to another 30% level. And after some time, I think the time frame for it is 5 years. It will not fraction percentage will not be reduced to 50%, and then ultimately the university will be let go, to have to take charge of the curriculum for their programs. And an issue of money, funding. How do you fund education? This is also a very major thing. I don't have any particular announcement on this one, but it's something that we need to have a lot of conversations on. Yes. Yeah, people are very passionate about it, rightly. Government is also concerned because the pulse, as you know, is really not growing the way we hope for it to grow. But in any case, even if the pulse is huge, I think every stakeholder should be a contributor to financing education. And if you look at the way it is done in other countries, it's a partnership between students, parents, and then and the government. So these are the raft of things which we are wrapping ourselves around.
That's quite a lot.
Quite a lot, yeah.
Quite a lot.
So I was going to say that the Honourable Minister has already itemized. These are some of the issues, of course, we're going to take you up on.
Yes.
But you permit me, so that we don't to and fro, let's say out-of-school children.
Yeah.
I want to bring in the other guests on this occasion, beginning first with Professor Ajiboye. Pointedly, have we taken the question of out-of-school children very seriously? Because, as the Honourable Minister said, rather than the numbers declining, the numbers are climbing. And at every turn, we look for excuses to explain why those numbers are rising. And I'm saying this because years ago, almost more than 45 years now, when the government, as part of the development plan, recognized that you needed to boost primary education, by 1976, they introduced universal primary education, which was to say, this is a challenge, take on it headlong. Are we shying away from having a big confrontation, as it were, with out-of-school children to say, this is an existential problem, these numbers are not salutary, we must crush them? Prof.
Well, thank you very much. Let me start from where the Honorable Minister actually stopped. It's a good thing that he has actually enumerated all these things that he's trying to do since he came on board. And also to add to the fact that he has set up a committee to develop a roadmap to address all these issues he has enumerated. The committee is presently working. That committee has interacted with mostly all the agencies under the Federal Ministry of Education, including the directorates under the Federal Ministry of Education. And by the time they are going to finish their assignment, they will come up with a roadmap, and then it will be subjected to some of the other stakeholders to look at it, and then we'll be able to develop something that will actually guide this administration, and particularly his administration as the Minister of Education. One is very glad that kind of idea actually came up, because look, we need to know where we are presently and then where we are going. With regards to one of the key pillars in that roadmap, which is the out-of-school children, nobody is happy in Nigeria. Nobody in government will be happy with the kind of statistics being rolled out about Nigeria. Look, they will say, one, Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. Then when they are looking at out-of-school children, they will say we have one of the highest number of out-of-school children in the world. This is not salutary. It's not, like you said, it's not what any government will be proud of. And I want to say, like the various successive government, yes, UPE was introduced in 1976. In 1999, we came up with what we call the Universal Basic Education, which was launched in Sokoto then by President Obasanjo. And the whole idea is actually to address this challenge of out-of-school children. But you see, as we are trying to address this challenge, I want to believe that, you agree with me that a lot of challenges are cropping up across the country, which actually makes government effort to pale down into insignificance in most instances. When you look at the challenge of insecurity that arose in the Northeast, you will agree with me that actually largely impacted on the and it moved from the northeast and then to the northwest, north central. This has increased, and even some states, you know, it may surprise you, even some states that we thought were comfortable, that we didn't have out of school children. Today, if you look at the statistics, like my own state or your state, we now have a huge number of out of school children. So it's something that is now becoming very global in the country. And that's why I think all efforts have to be made, concerted efforts. And I believe, like what the Honorable Minister said, now there's a new thinking. There's a new direction. What we are going to do is to make sure that we confront this. And I'm glad. Part of the thing that he rolled out was he was able to state that, look, in addressing because if you want to bring these children to school, you will need the classrooms. Presently, the government has identified that we need about 20,000 new schools. 20,000 new schools. And like I also added, I said if we need 20,000 new schools, because if you bring the children to school, you will need the teachers. We will also need to recruit more than 300,000, over 360-something thousand teachers to be able to address the issue of out-of-school children. We need to recruit new teachers as well. So, some of these things we are already putting on the table because, we are not glad, we are not happy about this state of affairs. And we will make sure that with this administration in place, we address this challenge squarely. And I'm glad the minister has put it as number one priority in the front burner of his roadmap plan. And that is what we are going to do. As agencies under his ministry, our own idea is to key in to whatever he's trying to do to make sure that we deliver on that. So the government has recognized this huge number of out-of-school children and the future impact that will have for our country. Because look, like the children, my people will say the children you don't train, they are the ones that will sell even the house you think you have. Yes.
We're seeing it already happening.
We're seeing it already happening.
Killing their parents and
I'm telling
so many
yeah,
things. Yes.
that is part of what we are witnessing now. Children killing their parents to even make money. So it is part of the outcome, negative things coming out, emanating from this. So the government is not sleeping on this, and what we are going to do is what the Honorable Minister said. We have put it as number one on the top of the list.
You're saying 20, okay, you said 20,000 new schools.
New schools.
Is it going to be across board?
Across board, across the country.
Because they say for the country to move forward, you need to go back to the basics.
No, we are talking of primary and secondary.
Yes, that's what
like
I'm
what
talking
the
about.
Honorable Minister said, we are addressing the foundations now.
Yeah.
You need a very solid foundation to be able to go to the tertiary. No, for the universities, the government has tried in the area of establishing new universities.
Prof, we will come to tertiary.
Yeah.
Let's deal with out of school first.
Yes, the basics.
Professor Mesamari,
yes, sir.
former Dean, Faculty of Education, yes. University of Abuja. The kind of, if you may, this is street language, positive vibrations you hear from the federal government
Yes.
in seeking to tackle out-of-school children, you don't get to hear such vibrations from many of the states. And yet, education is on the concurrent list. Professor Ajiboye hints that, we would need some 20,000 schools. The Honorable Minister has also indicated infrastructural needs, teacher requirement, X, Y, Z. But elsewhere, what you keep hearing are not matters that would appear to be in sync with this whole idea of saying, look, let's crash the numbers of out-of-school children. Are we on the right path?
I think there is indeed a mismatch between the intent and the implementation. And also there is a mismatch between the efforts of the federal government and the efforts of the various state governments. This is particularly because I know the education, primary and secondary basic education is on the concurrent list on which the federal government liaises with the state through UBEC and the various SUBEC in order to fund some of the programs at that level. But the question, and that has been the practice, at the state level, a lot of things are not right. Agreed, the federal government might have to do what it ought to do, but you discover that even the award of contracts of building of the new schools, is it done according to need, or it is done to patronize people you assume they are your loyalists, or communities that you think you did? Those you did not take care of them, they will still come back as the dissidents that we are afraid of. So education must be taken completely out of political consideration and look at it as an issue that borders on national development and national security. Secondly, the teachers that we send to these schools, I remember there was this program during Obasanjo regime, Operation Reach All Schools. And then you discover that a research was conducted. I was glad I was part of the team that analyzed the statistics. And what did we find? You find overcrowding of teachers in the urban areas. And then in the rural areas, you have just a teacher who is the headmaster, the religious teacher of the two religions, the English teacher, the mathematics teacher. Any day he moves to the local government headquarters in order to, make complaints or get things, what happens to the school? There is no school. And that has been the reason. Students feel, and parents equally too, feel that students only waste their time, go there and only count years, and nothing come out of it. And that is one of the reasons of the out-of-school children. People feel that there is nothing they learn, therefore let them stay at home and probably help them. Those who are farmers, help them to go to farm. Those who are herders, let them go and follow the cows and the sheep. And of course, the result is out of school, school dropout. The number keeps increasing. So what I'm trying to say is this: there must be sincerity in the implementation. The focus must be, let's take these out of school children off the streets and bring them back to school. And for us to do that, the facilities, as has been enumerated, must be distributed according to needs, areas of needs. And the teachers must be recruited and posted to areas of needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Minister, a lot of experts have said that the scrapping of the teachers' colleges and not much attention being paid to the colleges of education is one of the reasons why we have a dwindling, educational sector in the country. Out of these new schools that are going to be introduced or built, are we bringing back the teachers' colleges? And are we what is going to happen to the College of Education now? Are we going to pay more attention to it? Because that is the foundation of everything.
Well, I am glad you mentioned that. I really don't know what led to the scrapping of teachers in the years past, teachers' colleges, but certainly with hindsight, it has been a great disservice to the teaching profession. And along with that, there is even some seeming threats even to the colleges of education right now, which we are going to stop. Because we have reports of dwindling number of enrollment in these institutions. There's a problem with the recognition of NCE itself as a qualification, whereas not official recognition, but really status. It's status, really, as it were. And because of it, there's a lot of anxiety and a bit of tension with regards to proceeding on a career path in that direction. And as I said, we are going to stop it. And some years back, some of the colleges of education have been converted into universities. We are having ongoing conversation on that. Personally, although as a minister now you can say it's difficult to have a personal opinion, yes, but my own view really is that it was an error to convert those institutions into universities of education. The existing universities have faculties of education. So somebody can have his NC, if he wants, stop there, continue with his job at the secondary school level with that qualification, or primary school level. And then if you want to have a degree, you now go for bachelor's in education, which are well established, especially in the older universities. That to me is still the pathway to a proper career in education. But now there's a bit of confusion on the ground, which we are trying to set out. And whether we want to bring back teachers' colleges, it's not something that I can say here. It requires further conversation and a deeper conversation. And because there are many ways you can acquire qualifications in the profession, like any other profession. So that's what we are going to encourage. So it's still a developing policy, really.
So, Honorable Minister, let's leapfrog. And I know that there are persons who will be concerned that we're not going to talk much about secondary education.
Yeah.
We're leapfrogging now to tertiary so that we can maximize the time we have for this conversation. You hinted at it earlier about the issue of financing university education, more particularly public universities, and in your case, federal public universities. And this has been an issue. We've had a conversation on it on Good Morning Nigeria to say, look, universities were raising their fees, not tuition. Federal government says it remains tuition free. University administrators don't appear to have enough elbow room to generate the kind of funding that will enable them run institutions that will deliver more quality education for their products. How are you coping with this tension, or how do you intend to help resolve this tension of saying, look, don't charge fees, students are protesting, other people are protesting, but in the meantime, you need money to run the schools?
Yeah. I must confess, it's a very tough one. And there's a real tension, because the truth is that, yes, over the years, the government and of course the Constitution has provided for free education, for some level of education in the country. And some would even push that it also includes tertiary education. And but the policy of tuition free still remains for now. It's not reviewed. What about services? If you take the current cost of energizing any institution, University of Lagos, for instance, gave us information they are paying 180 million on energy. And I suspect that's just on the power coming from AEDC, or what do they call it in Lagos. Now, take out generator, diesel, that sort of thing. They have to provide security. They have to provide sanitation services. They have to provide teaching materials, all sorts of services in the campuses. So these ones are real challenges. I've managed a university, so I know what it entails. And now, what we have done so far, and then of course, against that, you now have parents who are struggling, students who are also struggling. So where do you get a moderation? How do you moderate these two competing needs? So what we have done is to encourage universities to engage with stakeholders. Yes, you have that problem, but also there's a problem with people who are struggling to pay. Meet with the students' unions on the campuses, meet with your alumni, meet with other donors, have a conversation within the campus and arrive at something that is realistic, for everybody, for you to be able to provide your services, and for those who have to pay to be able to pay reasonably. So this is the way we waded in. This is the way the government waded in.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Oh, you continue.
Yeah. The other point is that, you see, our managers of universities, vice chancellors and other people who are in charge of running them, have to be creative in funding the institutions. It cannot be just students' fees or service from students. Because in other climes, we have universities derive the bulk of their revenue from research grants, from both the public government wanting research in a particular area, and the private sector who wants a particular research in a particular area. So they commission research studies, and in this way, the university generates a lot of money. Certain services are also provided. I know a couple of universities where a lot of money is raised from their medical services, for instance. You know, they have hospitals, they have teaching hospitals, they have doctors who provide medical services, so they generate a lot of money for them. They also have consultancy services, business segments in those institutions that, you know, run all those services and generate a lot of income for them. In fact, in some universities, you know, professorial chair is even tied to a certain level of income which somebody can bring, you know. So these are the kind of things which we expect our universities now to begin to fall back on, instead of simply using the students as their only source of income. It's not a very sustainable means of financing the universities. And that's the kind of conversation that we want to continue to have.
Okay, indeed, Honorable Minister, you've raised some issues that we'll come back to talk to. Let me bring in Professor Ajiboye. There's need for holistic reorientation, re-engineering, and rebranding of the education sector, especially the training and retraining of teachers. We've seen what has happened, like in Kaduna. They have exams and most of them couldn't even pass. Now, government has tried over the years to improve the condition of teachers, but do teachers still have to wait for their reward in heaven?
Well, thank you very much. I thought the Honorable Minister could have spoken on this first, because the past administration actually...
Let's hear from you, then he...
Yes, we were here when the immediate past administration actually made some significant announcement in the improvement of welfare of teachers in 2020. Yeah. The same exactly today, what teachers did 2020 was when the then Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, made the announcement to the world about the welfare packages for Nigerian teachers.
There was so much excitement there.
Yes, with so much excitement. And by today, if you ask the Nigerian teachers, they will tell you that they have never had it so good. That's what they will tell you. I can recall that even the Nigerian Union of Teacher Leadership was here. And if you look at the implementation so far, the Honorable Minister will roll out what we have done in this regard. And I want to tell Nigerians that, look, the immediate past government and even the sitting government, the current government, we have tried as much as possible to address some of the issues that are welfare issues that have been approved for Nigerian teachers. Today, it is a law now that a Nigerian teacher retires at 65 and or 40 years, whichever one comes first. Okay, it's a law in the country because the immediate past president signed the bill into law in 2022, and we started implementation even from 2021.
Unfortunately, not all the states are adopting that yet.
Yes, we still have some challenges with some states of the federation, but I want to tell you that a large percentage of the states have now keyed into this. In fact, those who have not done so, I think by today, you will hear a lot of announcements at the grand of the World Teachers Day in so many states of the federation as I'm speaking today. So that is number one. Because when the federal government was doing that, we carried the states along. We did. Yeah. No, we were not doing it in isolation. We carried the states, all the states of the federation. We even attended the meeting of the National Council on Establishment to make sure that all the heads of service in all the states of the federation were carried along with regards to this new retirement plan. Apart from that, so many other things, because the then administration was guided by two major principles, like you raised earlier. One, how do we attract best brains to the teaching profession? How do we attract best brains? Two, how do we retain experienced teachers on the job? You mentioned something at the time that if you look at some states, the last time some states made recruitment of teachers was about 10 years ago. It's a big surprise. You know, while the federal government is lifting it this way, you will discover that some states are not helping us. Okay? And that was why at the time we thought, what can we do to be able to retain these experienced teachers on the job? And that was why we also introduced certain things in terms of age extension and things like that. But to attract young ones to the teaching profession, we introduced bursary allowance for education students, reintroduction. I want to say that today, especially we started with the students in the in the final year, both in colleges of education and the universities. We have started, and with the payment, you know, of bursary allowance to education students
on the federal level. Yeah, that's what it's saying.
So but it must be concerning, as the Honorable Minister pointed out, that there's a decline in enrollment for colleges of education.
It's a big challenge. When the Honorable Minister was speaking, you know, is a naughty issue actually. It's a very naughty issue, and the Honorable Minister got me one-on-one, and he asked me what is my own position, and I was able to tell him that I think I align with the position of the Honorable Minister. Look, yes, we scrapped the teachers grade 2, and today we are being haunted by that. And so many states of the federation are in the idea of, can we bring back TC2? Although the National Policy on Education is now saying that the minimum teaching qualification in the country is NCE. So we cannot easily go back to bring it back like that. But you know what we could do is to bring back those positive things that make the TC2 very strong, to bring it into the colleges of education program. Okay, so there is a naughty issue of even the challenges being faced by the colleges of education as enunciated by the Honorable Minister. And when he put me one-on-one, I told him that I think we should allow the colleges to remain. We should not scrap the colleges of education. If you say you scrap, yes, I know that some countries, the minimum teaching qualification that is allowed, for example, in Finland, is a master's degree before you can be a teacher. But for us, I think we should allow the colleges of education to remain, because you need these teachers. The policy prescribes where this category of teachers can teach. Okay? And if you know the kind of training that they get, they are tailored towards the kind of teaching that they would do. So we should not disrupt that system. So I will agree with the Honorable Minister that because if you turn all these things to, that means even the national, like I said, even the National Commission for Colleges of Education will be scrapped. There won't be anything like that. Everybody will go under NUC, and then everything will now become unwieldy. Okay, so I think that's where we are. I think we are in sync with what the Honorable Minister is thinking in that regard.
Okay, Professor Besamari, yes. I would like you to respond to one of the issues that the Honorable Minister raised, namely how to get better funding for our universities. That fees alone will not suffice, even though those fees are inadequate right now, because yes, a number of us went to university tuition free, but we know that those were the better days and the population was much smaller. But the Honorable Minister is saying universities themselves have to be more creative, attracting more research grants. But what we keep hearing most of the time from federal universities in particular are complaints and complaints and complaints.
Well, this is a very complex something. Definitely the issue of school fees is not something that will fly in our universities, knowing the kind of background some of these children come. Some of them are actually dissidents. I will take an example of one of the schools, not necessarily mentioning. When they computed their expenses, they arrived at 200,000 plus per student per session. After negotiation, they came up to 80,000 from the students. And you can imagine what then becomes, who fills the gap? The 120 that they had budgeted, who takes responsibility? Which means school fees, even as it has been permitted, charged on utility and services, it cannot go. When the university system had that problem in the 80s, ASU thought strategically, and then the idea of TETFON came in which a percentage was charged from petroleum and other things. And today, nobody will tell you that TETFON has not done so much in the life of public universities and tertiary institutions in Nigeria. We can expand that theory, and I can say companies, contractors that work for Nigeria and benefit from Nigeria should equally be charged and channeled towards funding education. If I may go a little bit further, sir, our Nigerian politicians, I think what they take, if they can donate a little out of it, Well, I wouldn't mind if he does. If they can donate out of their own earnings, which is, of course, in the public interest, I think that will go a long way in helping. Because we know the many people out there, brilliant students out there, will definitely drop out if they must be charged what they would use and the services they will receive in these tertiary institutions.
But companies already pay because it's the percentage. I think about 2.5 now or 2% now. What has gone up the other day? I think it was increased. Yeah, companies already contribute to tech fund, so that's that. But the issue really has to do, again, a matter we have taken up on this program, is the relevance of research to industry and societal needs.
That's very right.
Yeah, when can we have this change in the reorientation?
You talk of research where there are industries. You research for industries to buy, for industries to implement, particularly in productive industries. But you can see what is happening in Nigeria today. The industries are either moribund or have collapsed. So the first thing is, you see, it's a system. You can't solve one problem without the other. Our industry must be made to come back to life so that they will be productive and they will require the services of researchers. Or else, we will continue to depend on TED Fund to sponsor researches, which is more academic than, national-based funding research that is supposed to add to development.
This is one thing that lecturers have, cried about over the years, and I believe with a square hole, a peg in a square hole, sitting here, I think things will improve. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll talk about student loan implementation and eligibility. We'll be right back. You're welcome back, and you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. We still have our guest here in the studio, and I will come to the Honorable Minister now on the issue of, the World Teachers' Day. That's the main reason why we're here today, and to talk about your agenda. But can we talk a little about the World Teachers' Day we are celebrating today? And I hear the theme is the teachers we need for the education we want, global imperative to reduce teachers' shortage. That's the theme is apt, don't you think?
Very.
Okay.
It's a very old celebration, actually. It's not just for today.
No.
And it is global.
It is.
It was recognized by the ILO and UNESCO, in 1966. And then other United Nations agencies adopted it as a policy for first to recognize the contributions of teachers, to contribute to the growth of teachers, because their number at some point, in a lot of places was dwindling, and then the status of teachers is also becoming a bit of a problem in some places. So these world organizations thought, look, we should draw attention to the status of this very key profession and the sacrifices of people who are there, give them recognition, provide for their growth and their development. So that's why globally it is celebrated everywhere. And for us here, we are rolling out the drums. The president was going to be there through his vice president for today's event, and all the teachers around, all over the states, are rolling out the drums to celebrate it. And it couldn't have come at a better time than now, honestly, because there are a lot of question marks over what to do with teachers. And we cannot do we can do better than what we are doing now for them. Because without teachers, there will be no society. That is the truth of the matter. All our civilization, our concern for the economy, our concern for infrastructure, everything, it still comes back to the classroom. In terms of the growth of the professions, the quality of the professions, And the service that we can get from them depends on having a very good teachers. Now, as we have mentioned earlier on, we have some kind of problems, even the number in the country. From the information we have, we need to recruit about 900 and something thousand teachers in the country right now as we are speaking. You know, she talked about 20,000 classrooms earlier on, but in terms of the actual people who need to be in the classroom, we need about 1 million at the moment. You know, but I mean, if you look at the size of the country, it's really not a very huge number. You know, with 36 states and FCT, if you spread that out, it's really not a very huge number. But, and then, in addition to the number, the quality and the training they are supposed to be having, because education is very dynamic, learning is very dynamic. So they need to be exposed to constant training and retraining, technology now, you know, and for them to bring technology to the classroom and in teaching and learning, and even for their own development. With the size of the country we have, we can easily apply technology to ease further development of teachers on a very large scale. And so these are the kind of things which we are going to, which we should all pay attention to, from the federal to the states. But it has been mentioned here, you know, the states need to show more responsibility in the affairs of the teaching profession. There are some of them who have taken it up very seriously, like now Governor Katsina State, we know what he has done and what he's doing for states. Borno State, before he left the government, what Nasir El-Rufai did in Kaduna State in terms of infrastructure, quality of teachers, and all these things. So, but we need to have all the states key into it, and we are already working on that. We are having that conversation with the state governors, and sooner than later, I think the next few days, we are going to have reach out to the governors forum for them to be part of the reforms that we are bringing on board through the National Council on Education and that sort of thing. And that's a very key part of the roadmap which he mentioned earlier on, which we are rolling out.
Yeah. I know that the other profs probably eager to also talk about the World Teachers Day, but there's something that you mentioned, Honorable Minister, about the shortfall in the number of teachers that we need. I want to tie that up to the issue of the governance in public universities. Now, there are complaints that universities are finding it increasingly difficult to recruit, in particular, academic staff. Yeah. Academic staff. So staff are exiting, there's no replacement, student population is growing, and so you're having this challenge, which is also tied to another point that they complain about, that the Vice Chancellor of a federal public university reports to more than a dozen institutions or establishments. NUC, Third Fund, Senate Committee, House Committee, Office of the Head of Civil Service, on and on, that they have very, sometimes they have little time, you know, to actually face the governance issues. So two issues are put on the table now, Honorable Minister. Federal universities in particular are finding it increasingly difficult to recruit academic staff in particular, and secondly, excessive oversight.
Well, all these issues you mentioned have been on board before we came in, have been there before we came in. And, but the reason for it has been problems internal to the university in terms of integrity of staff recruitment. A lot of institutions cannot give account of their staff profile. Some institutions, for instance, get approval to recruit 100, they recruit 500. Now, how do we pay them? And then there's also a ratio in staffing between academics and non-academics. A lot of such cases are not really quite adhered to in some institutions. And in fact, even some, In some universities in Nigeria, you find a lot of staff. They are there, their wives are there, their children are there. You know, you find this kind of inbreeding. So I think it reached a certain height. It's reached a certain level. And you find some staff spread out across so many institutions. One person, he will be full-time there, he will be visiting there, he will be adjunct in another one, he will be visiting in so many places. So you cannot even be sure where he is. And I've seen this even with myself, with my own eyes, you know, when I was busy here. And so I think it reached a certain level that necessitated government intervention at that time with regards to the issue of who is actually their staff. Even now, we already, through the NUC, we have already issued a directive to the universities to do a staff audit to be sure we don't have people who are not supposed to be in the universities on their salary roll. That's a problem. Now, whether the solution adopted is actually the solution to those problems is another matter. I know the bureaucracy in government sometimes can be really problematic. And we are dealing with hundreds of thousands of employees. So things can really get stuck. And that's why now when a university wants to make a recruitment, they have to apply, you know, to the head of service, and then they now get approval, they get registration for this IPPIS, you know, before they can do that. And that takes a long time. For me, that can be streamlined. I know there have been efforts also between the government and the various unions to provide for a platform, payment platform, that assures the integrity we are talking about, and efficiency. That too is still not concluded, I'm afraid. But we are going to go back to that so that that issue is really concluded, because it doesn't make for good administration that you want to do things now and then it takes months and months and months, almost looking like forever. So these are some of the things we are going to have more conversation with the relevant parties. We are already having with some of the administrators of the university and then the unions. We are having very quiet understanding, because we feel we have a president who wants to do things differently. You know, he's not interested in too much of bureaucracy and grammar. He's a result-oriented person. So he wants to get over with some of these things, and so that the universities can be stable and get what is due to them, and then get the infrastructure right in the institutions. And then we'll move on to become really part of the developed committee of nations where things can be done properly.
Okay, let's talk about this before we bring in the other guests. The Student Loan Act that was signed by President Muhammadu Buhari to sort of lessen the burden of the hike in fees. Can you tell us about the eligibility and when it will start implementation?
Well, at the moment, it's open to all Nigerian students, but it's not tenable in a private university, of course. Only tenable when students are in public institutions. And then when, I can't put a date on it, but I'm aware all the efforts at the moment is for it to take off with this academic session, September, October academic session. It is being hosted by the CBN and the Chief of Staff's officer. It's not Minister of Education directly, but there are some agencies of education that are involved in it. So this is the plan at the moment for it to take off September, October academic session. It's open to all students.
Thank you very much. There was a point that also emerged when we had a conversation around the Students' Loan Act, that there are some problematic provisions in the Act, and therefore it's a committee that is meeting to review some of those provisions so that dissonances can be resolved. The two professors also here with us in the studios. I know you want to talk about Teachers' Day again in passing. That's fine, but technical education, which will also involve teachers, are we on the right path with respect to technical education? Because some of the things that we need, Prof was talking about, industries are not there. The hands that will drive it, the machinists and persons with the technical skills, they are not just there. We seem to, well, are we neglecting it? Prof, let's begin with you very quickly, and then we'll go back to Professor Mesamari.
Thank you very much. In his earlier speech, you will recall that the Honorable Minister, when he was talking about his roadmap, also mentioned the issue of technical education, technical and vocational education. One critical aspect that Nigeria has actually neglected over the years is the issue of TVET, what you call technical and vocational education. The last administration was trying to revamp it, but I believe very strongly under his new roadmap, this is what we are going to focus on. Because look, I agree with you. Even when you see some of the small artisans and everything, we now depend on countries like Togo and a few other ones to supply us with these artisans. Those who make the machinists, carpentry job and things like that. If you want the best POP now, I think you are going to get from Togo, you know. And Ghana. If you go there, I've been there recently. I was with the Honorable Minister of Education. Part of the thing that made the education system very strong is on TVET. It's on technical and vocational education. Yes, we have technical institutions, federal technical institutions across the country. But if you go, you discover that number of children in the pupils in those schools and all these things, they are very few. Nobody is interested in this. And this is the aspect that we need to look at. So in the new roadmap that the Honorable Minister is trying to develop, we are putting a high premium on technical and vocational education. Like you also said, we have also addressed the issue of the teachers. Previously, we used to train these teachers with Japan and China. They used to go there. But we are looking at how do we domesticate the training of technical and vocational teachers in Nigeria. And we did a study. Under the Federal Ministry of Education, I chaired the committee on technical and vocational teachers. And we have been able to summarize what we need to do that in the country. Because if we do not take a look, when people are talking that people, you know, when they go to school, they just want to get certificates, looking for white-collar jobs and things like that. But if these people are well taken care of in the area of technical and vocational education, we believe very strongly that they will be ready for the world of work. They'll be ready for the world of work. So part of the premium that we are going to focus on, things that we are going to focus on in this roadmap that the Honorable Minister is developing is on TVET. I know agencies like NABTEP, National Board for Technical Examination, and then the MBT, National Board for Technical Education, they are also involved because there's what you call the skill board that was even established under the past administration, which was headed by the vice president. Is on skills for our learners. So it's a big thing. It's a big thing, and I believe very strongly.
And we are losing the jobs. You mentioned MBT, Executive Secretary of MBT, Professor Bugaje, was a guest on Good Morning Nigeria. And he lamented the fact that for the construction of the Dangote refinery, some 10,000 Indians
yes.
were brought
into the country.
Yeah, that's the area where we are. Because, look, we are talking of matching the education system with the world of work. And that is why TVET is very, very critical. I believe with this new roadmap, we'll be able to deliver on it. Nigerians should trust this current administration. Like what the minister said, the president is somebody that maybe few words, but action is what is required. So that is the direction at which we are going now.
Professor. Skill is the new currency, Professor.
Yes, I think the university system must be encouraged to train the needed manpower for our vocational jobs. The polytechnics must be equipped to do those things. Currently, very few universities run vocational education. I can tell you 40% or less are able to do that. And that is even the universities, they were traditionally established as technical universities, technology-based universities, they have run away from their mandate. They have gone conventional. Even some of them has gone as far as introducing things like languages. Why? Why? They have abandoned their mandate. The mandate was to establish them to provide manpower to feed our industries. And they have run away. The question now is, why? Technology education is capital intensive. Government must be ready to invest in it. It is unlike teaching the arts, where you have a classroom, at most you have 1 or 2 ICT facilities, and you are able to deliver. These are things that must be done practically. A lot of wastages, if I will call it like that, for them to cut machines, the materials, they are consumables that are very expensive. Nigeria must be committed to it. And committing to that means funding.
All right. Professor Mesama,
and let me add, sir.
Yeah, very quickly.
The issue of Dangote importing Chinese to come and, Indians to come and work. It's not just that. The laying of pipes that is going across Nigeria and to the northern part of the continent.
The AKK project?
A lot of them are Chinese doing that. Laying of pipes, welding. And you ask, why? We don't have the people. I remember,
why don't we have the people? That's
because we've not been able to train. We've not been able to train the people.
Or prefer
those who train
jobs.
people in welding are the non-formal sectors today. The non-formal sectors. And they are doing it at their own level.
Well, the truth is, what is happening, if I may start with the Dangote thing, I think he had actually debunked that statistics at some point. I remember even a personal conversation with him. He's employed about like something thousand people overall, but the external component is not up to that amount. They even issued a statement to that effect. So we have to be very careful with our comment on that. Now, coming back to what we are talking about, we talked about Al-Majiri as a front burner issue earlier on.
Yes.
For us in the ministry, as I mentioned earlier on, hinted, but without much elaboration, is our focus on vocational institutions. And not just equipping the polytechnics, even though he rightly said their equipment are expensive, but it's not every skill that require all those expensive equipment.
Yes.
You know, a lot of them are just business attributes, trainings here and there. With just 1 month, 2 months training on those things, carpentry, hairdressing, you know, the kind of makeup we had here when we were coming to the studio. You know, you don't need much equipment for that. And honestly, we are going to encourage. It's not the government is going to provide them, the ministry directly will provide them. No, we are going to recognize there are innovation enterprise institutes across the country. These are private sector, completely private sector driven enterprises. But they have problem with recognition of their certificates. So that certification is very important. So we made that problem on the ground, and we are going to work through the National Skills and Qualification for a commission. There's a skills commission which, as you mentioned, chaired by the vice president, the whole vice president. You know, with Dangote even as the second member and the Minister of Education as the. So we are going to work through that to ensure that this private sector of outfits and agencies, enterprises get recognition for what they are doing. And then there are so many of them, really in their thousands. So we are already developing a framework for their recognition.
Yeah,
I was just wondering, I know that we're out of time. Well, on Good Morning Nigeria, the issue came up about a week or two ago. The vetting of texts recommended for use, particularly in secondary schools. A few years ago, we had a conversation where there was a blowout over what to incorporate, what not to incorporate in terms of religious studies. And now it's come out from the Southeast that there was a claim in a particular text about what the Southeasterners were not. So is the process of vetting texts, is it going to be streamlined, assuming that doesn't already exist?
Certainly, it will be looked at. My attention was drawn to this some days ago, and in fact, I will be having a meeting with the head of NAT, right?
NRDC.
NRDC, to discuss this matter. And some of these things they slip in, but I don't know whether somebody wasn't diligent, but certainly we cannot afford to have wrong messaging, wrong information and in things for people who are very vulnerable. These are very vulnerable.
Like children, the sexual, so explicit
Exactly.
in some of. I heard Kano State has stepped down some books from the schools.
Yeah, and it is correct. It is correct for people to intervene in that way.
Yes. Okay, Honorable Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Mamman, thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thank
Professor Ashom Musa Mesamari, former Dean Faculty of Education, University of Abuja. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much.
Professor Josiah Olusegun Ajiboye, Registrar, Chief Executive Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. Pleasure.
Well, I think in closing, I think the Honorable Minister wanted to make this announcement that a Nigerian, actually, Ms. Adeola Adefemi, is the winner of the 2023 African Union, Continental Teachers Prize.
In the midst of all this,
The whole of African continent. The whole of what we are talking
All right,
about.
so you've made the announcement on behalf of the Honorable Minister. What you will do, Prof, just take it again for our viewers to get that.
Yes.
No, just take it again very quickly.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Honorable Minister, it's our pleasure to announce that a Nigerian teacher, Ms. Adeola Adefemi, is the winner of the 2023 African Union AU Continental Teachers Prize. Ms. Adeola Adefemi is a public school teacher. She teaches at Okeodo Senior High School in Alimosho in Lagos State. And she was the winner of the Presidential Prize for Nigerian teachers last year. This year, she has emerged as the overall winner
in
for
Africa.
the African continent.
And I'm so happy
continent.
she's a woman.
There you are. There you are.
So that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us tomorrow for another episode. I am Jummai Yusuf.
Look after yourself. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.